I truly believe that if you want to be healthy, if you want to be happy in the long run, then you have to really make sure that you're creating a life that you personally know that you will love.
It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
Welcome to Health in the Real World podcast. We're here today with Nadia Santiago. Nadia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Sure. Yeah, my pleasure. Your business is called Transform with Nadia. You have an online kind of members community, group classes, things like that. It's really exciting.
Yeah, that's right. I do online personal training as well as live online classes.
What's one of the most important things that somebody can do to get healthy? Like, what is step one, step two, step three? What are like the on-ramps for you in your mind?
I truly believe that in order to get healthy, probably the best thing somebody can do just getting started is to start moving more. As you know, so many people sit behind desks all day, or at least they're sedentary. Even if they're standing, they're not really moving that much throughout the day. And that can create pain, that can create immobile joints, and that can create lack of muscle activity. And literally the best thing is to just get your body moving. People think it's really complicated, right? You know, when they try to get fit, they want to just jump into doing like 3 workouts, 5 workouts a week, high intensity, all out. But literally just standing up and like doing shoulder circles, walking around the room, that's the first place people should be starting, I think.
Yeah. Get up, walk around the neighborhood, 5-10 minutes, do something, right? Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. You got to go somewhere, and that's better than doing nothing. So just take that first little small step.
Absolutely. And I think that's almost like the first domino, right? Like you knock that over and you start moving, and then you hope that sort of naturally you start to want to eat better to fuel that movement. And then it just kind of starts one-upping itself as it progresses, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that people are always looking for like the right thing to do when it comes to fitness. And I'm pretty sure that most people have been exposed to enough information that they know the things to do that will help them along. They know how to burn calories generally by moving, by working out, by exercising. They know what types of food they need to eat in order to have a healthy diet, but really just putting small things into place at once is the best thing. And the other thing I would say, just, you know, in terms of starting, is to get to know your body. Because of course, you and I are going to be different than, as personal trainers, we're going to be different than that person who has never worked out before or who hasn't worked out in 10 years.
Yeah, I think definitely comparing yourself to somebody else is, especially somebody who's very fit, is just a recipe for disaster. It's like you need to just compare yourself to where you were last week. That's really the best way, right? Just to go one step at a time. I think it's interesting how you were saying that with just move, you know, everybody knows what to do. I mean, the big fitness revolution was in like the 70s, right? And health clubs started to get trendy and popular. And so we've had 50 years of knowledge, and then there's Google and YouTube, and you can go do follow along workouts on YouTube. And it's funny that when you were talking, I just was thinking of like the excuses, right? That people have, like, "Oh, it can't be that easy. Come on. Like, what's the secret? Give me the secret. Like, what do you do?" It's like, yeah, I just move and I eat healthy, and I've been doing it for a long time, and that's pretty much it, right? It's like, there's nothing else. What else is there?
Exactly. Something that a lot of my clients and people who know me now don't actually know is that I was overweight growing up for most of my life. I was an athlete as a kid, and I just loved to eat. So literally my favorite foods, pizza, pasta, and like pastries. like
Wow.
trifecta.
So this is a good story too. So you were an athlete. What sports did you play?
Okay, so I pretty much my favorite sport was basketball, but I
Yes, me too.
also I also danced. I
Oh,
started
cool.
dancing when I was 3, like formally, and like ballet, tap, jazz. And then when I was 5, I fell in love with basketball, and it pretty much canceled my dance career. So
Because you couldn't do both. Well,
exactly.
you wanted to commit to one. Because this
I
is
was
this is
like,
interesting to me. You're super active, right? But you're not eating right. And so when was that? When did you realize there was a disconnect between how much you're moving and what you're eating and what that combination is giving you, right?
I was probably one of the biggest girls around. I mean, I grew fast, so I'm five. I'm well, almost 5'7" now, and I was this tall since I was probably 8 years old. I grew fast,
Wow.
and I was also probably. I want to say I was probably around 130, 140 by the time I was like 10 years old in
Wow.
terms of weight. And I peaked when I went to college and stopped playing sports, probably
Right.
around 180.
Hmm.
And that was my biggest. Um,
Continued the unhealthy eating, but just stopped the activity, and then all of a
exactly.
sudden, yeah, yeah. That's
Exactly.
I can identify with your story a lot. Same thing. Going to college, I think I gained 20 pounds. Pizza on the pizza and beer diet, and but I think growing up, I was underweight. I was extremely skinny, and I don't know. I think it's just I moved all the time. But interesting. So when did it click for you? When were you like, maybe I should get my nutrition under control a little bit? And what did that look like for you?
Another funny story. So I I had an underbite. And so this was like unrelated to health and fitness generally. So I had a severe underbite to the point where my like chin jutted out forward and my teeth didn't close, so I couldn't like bite down on food. So I ended up having underbite surgery,
Oh wow.
and my jaw was wired shut for 6 weeks. So in the time that my jaw was wired shut, you know how they give you kind of like a little pamphlet on like types of things you should eat. But my doctor didn't really go over like basic nutrition, like
Oh no.
vitamins or how many calories I should be having, none of that. And so I figured out very quickly it was difficult to maintain my energy levels on a super low calorie liquid diet completely. I ended up Googling everything online and figuring out like, why am I so tired? And basically had been eating probably 200 to 400 calories a day in liquids.
Oh wow.
And I, I calculated how much I probably was eating beforehand with all the pizza and sandwiches I was eating. And I can't even tell you how much I was eating, probably upwards of 4,500 calories per day.
Oh
Just
my
and
goodness.
that was just a guesstimation, and I'm
Right,
sure
right.
it was under what I was
And
eating.
then dropped it within just immediately down to 200, 300 calories a day,
Exactly.
and your body hated you. Right? It's like, give me some food.
Like it was a struggle
Wow.
just to like leave my bed, walk around
Yeah.
the room.
Sure.
So
Yeah, yeah.
I immediately went on this quest to figure out what I could have while my jaw was wired shut, while trying to get myself to like 1,000 to 1,200 calories per day. And of course, after my jaw was unwell. So, well, actually, let me backtrack just a little bit. I lost 10 pounds in the first week.
Hmm.
And for me, that was crazy um, to lose weight that fast because that had never happened to me before. Um, and then throughout the 6 weeks, kept losing weight, of course, since I was on such a
Hmm.
low calorie diet.
Right.
When I was able to eat again and started feeling energetic, I realized that I actually had more energy than I had beforehand. And I wanted to maintain some sort of healthy diet that would help me keep the weight off, but without, of course, going overboard.
Right, right. That is a really interesting story. It sort of reminds me. One of my clients had Invisalign,
Uh-huh.
and so and I guess there's sort of like a term, they call it the Invisalign diet, because it's a hassle to take those things out, you know, and get the food, and then you have to brush again, and then you put them back in, and naturally people just eat less often. And I think
Hmm.
that's interesting. You almost went through like a 6-week boot camp, like a reset, and then when you were done, you're almost okay. Well, I can eat the sandwiches, the pizza again, or I can. That's interesting. So I'm wondering, like, for the people watching, if there's sort of a way, without getting your jaw, you know, necessarily having to get jaw surgery, but, you know, is there a way, or it's kind of a good, you know, a very short duration, right? 6 weeks is nothing. You know, maybe think about like, hey, let's take 6 weeks and do some sort of a reset, and then see where you want to go from here. I think the fact that it wasn't permanent, I think it can be very inspiring for people, right? That I'm going to change my behavior, maybe drastically, but just for a very short period of time, to move forward into a healthier lifestyle, right?
Yeah. I think for some people, the resets will work. But I actually hesitate to have people, especially if they have a lot of weight to lose,
Yeah,
go on a restrictive diet for a short period of time.
yeah,
Because in my experience of, I've done nutrition coaching with some studios in the area, and my experience with the clients is that they do get great results, but 3 to 6 months later, most of them are right back to where they started
yeah, yeah.
beforehand. And they just continue to do this same nutrition program over and over and over again. And that's the funny thing, is that this is a mindset as well of doing something for a short period of time, and then it doesn't have, you don't have to do it afterward.
Yeah,
That's the funny.
you almost need like a place to land, right? After you're done. It's like you can't go back to where you were after this, and you can't keep that extreme up, you know. So it's interesting that it worked for you, because that is a pretty cool story, just how that whole thing unfolded, and you just sort of like emerged 6 weeks later with sort of a new view. And I'm sure your habits after the 6 weeks were completely different from what they were before the 6 weeks, right?
Definitely. It gave me, um, what I would say the two biggest takeaways I got from that were, one, the importance of knowing how much you're having. So I had no idea how much I was having beforehand and was forced to calculate it. And just by doing that, it gave me a huge amount of awareness on what I could do moving forward. And the second thing is, um, it allowed me to do the research that I needed in order um, to, I guess, reevaluate and restructure my diet so that I was eating the right types of food that were healthy for my body.
So what do you do when one of your clients, for example, falls off the wagon, right? Like they've been doing really well, and then all of a sudden it's just they're making bad food choices, they're missing workouts, things like that. Do you have a pep talk that you go to for those occasions?
I would say that the one thing I would ask them is, what is going on? Like, let's talk it out and see what's happening. I think more often than not, um, clients run away from their trainers because they perceive themselves as having done something bad by, you know, eating poorly or not attending a workout. And then the guilt kind of gets to them. So they avoid you after that. And it just makes them continue to avoid their healthy habits. And at that point, just a genuine conversation of concern can really help them release the guilt, one, but then also understand that they're not starting over. They just have to continue from today.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. I think not feeling guilty for falling off the wagon, so to speak, is very important, because then you just get right back up, and we don't make a thing about it. We just do it and get back on the road. So good. So we're going to turn it a little bit toward you. I know you've told your story a little bit, which is great. What about currently? Where do you struggle with your health and fitness, and what are some practical strategies that you have implemented that have worked to overcome that struggle?
The one thing that I struggle with the most is actually I'm asthmatic, and it's a chronic condition. I was born with it and did not realize over my life how much it impacted how I play sports, how I am physically active. I found that out as I was teaching more high intensity classes. So I don't do that anymore. But the one thing I really have to remind myself is that my body is different than other people's bodies, and that I have to be very mindful of the types of strain that I put it through. And there's nothing wrong, even though that athlete in me wants to do everything, do the most.
Yep, of course.
Yeah. I always want to go for the goal, but I know that tomorrow and the day after, my body is going to be wrecked. So I just have to, in the moment, just remind myself of the big goal. And really, I have three main values, or I guess states, that I want to be in at all times in my life. I want to experience joy. I want to be grounded and have peace of mind. And I want to feel healthy. So is the high intensity stuff going to get me there? At this point in my life, probably will not.
Right.
But moving daily, doing some strength training, that's really going to help me achieve those goals.
So Nadia, I have one final question for you. This is a big one. You have been invited to be the commencement speaker at a university. And so you're talking to, early 20s for the most part, young people. And you can talk to them a little bit maybe about health, but go bigger picture. What are some character traits or some ways of looking at life that you would recommend they start thinking about in the coming years?
I would say the biggest key is to know what's most important to you. For the longest time in my life, I never took the time to really sit down and create a vision what I wanted my life to look like. I just assumed that it would be good if I had things that other people had, like, the house, the future husband, the money, the amazing career that everybody, looked up to me for. But ultimately, none of those things made me happy. I had to take time, sit down, create a new vision for myself, and create a plan to move forward in the future. And because of that, I am at the happiest place I have been ever in my life. And I truly believe that if you want to be healthy, if you want to be happy in the long run, then you have to really make sure that you're creating a life that you personally know that you will love.
That's great. Great advice. Thank you for that. So Nadia, as we close, you mentioned your business name is called Transform with Nadia. What's your website so that people can get a hold of you?
Transformwithnadia.com.
Easy. All right. Well, Nadia Santiago, thank you again so much for joining Health in the Real World today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris, for having me on. I appreciate that.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Visit mycorebalance.com to learn more.